what I did, and we did talk about this yesterday, but I imported the Duke well, I finished, or I added some animation to the Duke, and then I saved him by pressing right-clicking on him and going to Save Object. I saved him into the C drive, Program Files, Alice 2.3, Required, Gallery, English, and the People file. I saved him here as Duke, and that way I was able to bring him into this scene just by going to my own folder on the computer, or gallery on the computer, going to People, and scrolling down here to Duke. I was able to put him into the scene and use him, and that's how you can save. You can take objects that you've saved and import them into your own scenes to use in other files, in other worlds. So I animated them in the stage worlds that we used yesterday, and then brought them into here. Okay. So we're gonna open up a new window with, or a new version of this, or an older version of this world, I guess, that has no animation with this. The Duke isn't animated right now. He's animated. He actually goes through the motions, and he's being instructed on what to do. He's following those instructions. But for now, just to explain this window, I want to keep I'm going to keep the current world open, just so you can see how some of this stuff works. So this is the programming window, and it looks like there's a lot of new windows to look at, but actually a lot of them are the same. If you go to the scene editor, you're very familiar, at least you should be very familiar with the object tree by now. This is how you navigate your objects. It looks a little different because I added some different folders in here. I put all the background elements like these flowers and the trees into a folder called background elements, and so I added a bunch of folders, but this is still the same tree. It's still the same object tree. And below here is the same details window. You click on the world, you can still select the atmosphere color, you can still change the lighting and all the properties through the details window here. So these windows are the same. If you watch this right here, this window, just keep your eyes over there while I click this button, you'll see that those windows do not change. These are exactly the same. And this window actually is the same too. It's just smaller. It's still the same scene window. I can click the print or the Duke, and he's still highlighted there. He's still highlighted here. This camera controls are still there. This is exactly the same window. So the only thing that's different in this view are these two windows. There's the events window, and then there's this looks like a tabbed folder down here. This is the method creation or the function creating window. So if we close this, you'll see this is just a blank. There's a blank canvas down here, and this is for when every time you want. The only thing this window is for down here is used for is if you want view, edit, or create a new method or new function. That's all it does. It's for creating and editing functions. Up here, this is where your events are. This is how your major program functions. This is where you create events. And events, my definition of events are, or one way to look at them is that they're triggers. They're ways for the program. They're sensors within the program that when an event happens, it triggers an action to happen. So, for instance, right now we have when the world starts. That's the event. That's the trigger. When the world starts. Once it starts, it's going to do this fire.animateLight method. And this is an animate light method that belongs to fire. This is when the program starts. The fire changes brightness, gets brighter and darker. That's just a randomized action. And then also when the world starts, this is another trigger. It's the same one as this, but it's a separate code here. When the world starts, do the world.Duke investigation method. If you go to world, that's what that world dot means. It means this Duke investigation method belongs to the world. Go to world, go to methods, the methods tab in the world's detail window, or in the world's details window. You'll see the Duke investigation. That's what's happening. This is the code that's being called when the world starts. And by the way, world starts meaning when the play button is pressed. Once the play button is pressed, remind me later. So then it's going to actually call the this function here, this Duke investigation function. So that's what this window is for. You can create a whole, there's a whole bunch of different types of events you can create. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will tell you a couple of key ones. There's some, there's the let the arrow keys move a subject. There's when a key is typed. So what's going to happen is if you do a when a key is typed, you can press, the space key. When the space key is typed, do something. And that's something that you're going to do, or that the program is going to do, is one of these methods. So in fact, we could do it if we change this so that when the space bar is typed, do World Duke investigation. If we press play, the Duke isn't going to do anything. But if I hit the space key, then he's going to move. So that's how you create functionality in your worlds. Let's do this. Let's change this back to Duke investigation. So now I change it back to when the world starts, do the investigation. There's also things like when variables change. So let's say you had a variable that incremented one number every second. So at the beginning of the program, it starts at 0 and then it keeps going up 1, 2, 3, 4 every second. And then let's say at the end of 300 seconds, you want the program to end. The player ran out of time, the movie's over, whatever. But that's what you do is you would put this in there. You'd put a variable in there that adds up, and once that variable equals something, then you'd have the world respond with an action or with a method. So that's that window. That's pretty straightforward. Once you, the cool thing is exploring and experimenting with the different events. Down here is where you get to create functions and methods in this area here, and it's pretty robust. So you can do some pretty crazy things down here, pretty impressive stuff. But it's basically created just using these tiles down here. There's a lot of tiles down here. There's a couple of parameter and variable type creation buttons over here, and then a lot of it is in the objects themselves. You can pull in methods to call. So you can nest methods inside of each other. So let's say you created a small method called mix sugar, and you could pull that into or add sugar method, and you could add that to a you could call that method in a much larger program called make coffee. So you have make a cup of coffee, and you have all these smaller methods inside there. So you would nest methods inside each other to create more complicated algorithms. And we're going to actually do that today. That's something you almost have to do in order to make a good program in Alice. And then you also have properties you can pull over. In fact, you can just pull over color. This is for the Duke. You can change him green. Maybe he's going to get sick. He just ate a mushroom that didn't settle well with him. So we're going to disable this chunk of code, and he just turned green. So all you have to do is just pull the property over, and it automatically creates a method that sets the color to whatever value you choose. And the last is functions. Functions are neat. We're not going to go over any functions today. That'll be for a different class, but this is where you go and to create functions or to edit functions or to use functions that are already in existence. An example would be you might want to create, let's say you're making a game and you have the Duke walking around and there's a fire in the background. You could show that when the Duke becomes a certain distance to the fire, maybe a warning pops up, so that to tell you that to tell you be careful because you might get hurt, or something like that. You could use these different functions here to add to your methods. Again, that's not part of today's class. This will be in a later class. Also, some of these commands down here, we'll go through some of these, but some of them will be for a later class. I don't think we'll be doing anything with lists or arrays. So the for all in order and the for all together, we probably won't be going through. And the condition ones we won't be going through either. I'll show you, they're here, the if-else statements. There's a loop and there's a while condition statement. These are all down here, and we won't be using those today, but this is where they are. You just drag them up if you want to. You create an if statement. For the animation thing, we just don't need it for the animation. That's more for coding. That's more for coding interactive program or game. I did use the loop in the fire. You'll get the fire animation or the fire class on Monday. But if you look at the animate lights method within fire, there is a loop in here, and it's calling this method, or it has this instruction here where it sets the brightness of the firelight to a random number out of the brightness here. I have a list of different values, and these values are used, called randomly for a random amount of time within a range, and that's what the brightness is set to, that random number. And it does this for an infinite amount of time. That's why I have a loop, and that's why in the background it randomly changes brightness in the background. Anyway, so that's a loop. There's also if-else statement, and there's also a while statement, and there's also these two, the for all in order and for all together. What we will be using today is the do in order, do together, the wait, and the comments. We're not going to use the print. The print command is more for testing purposes. If you want to test certain things out to make sure something's happening correctly. We're not going to do that today. We don't need that for testing. Okay. Having said that, and I apologize if I went through that pretty quickly. I think we have a lot to go through and not a lot of time. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an older file, an older version of this file. It's before the Duke gets animated. Oops, recent worlds, 1906. Okay, if I play this, nothing happened. Well, the fire in the background kind of animated, but the Duke doesn't do anything. And we don't have any methods. I mean, the only method we have really, I mean, we have I think we have a couple methods. We have the flashlight turns off and on. The Duke has some animations. His upper body is animatable, or is animated. His lower body is animated. He has a walk animation, and then there's a turn left animation. And then there's a hill in the background that has an animated texture, and that's why that's popping up. And there's also the firelight that I animated, which is already in this when the world starts. So we need to create, we're going to create a method in the world, at the world level, to have the Duke investigate, to launch this investigation. And we're also going to call that using a new event. I have a new event listener right now. When the world starts, we'll create this method on the world level. So make sure your world's selected, go down to the details window, click methods, and then create new method. Again, make sure your names aren't abbreviated, they're not simplified, just make sure that they just say exactly what they're supposed to do. We're going to have this Duke investigation. Or investigate, how's that? I used I've done it a couple different ways, but I've used the Duke is a lowercase, then investigates capitalized, and there's no space in between. That's usually the method I prefer to use when I'm naming methods and properties in other programming languages. You don't have to do that in Alice. You can just do Duke investigate with a space in the middle, and it's fine. But I recommend getting in the habit of doing it. Okay, so I'm going to change this to Duke investigate. And you'll notice that it's not in any of these other, it's not belonging to any object, it belongs to the world, so that's why it's here. World.Duke investigate. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually animate him. We're going to have him go through his steps. Now I know you don't have the steps in front of you, but I wrote them down, so I'll just tell them to you, and we'll go through this together here. The first thing he does is he actually waits a half a second. So I'm going to go to the Duke. In order to get him to wait a half a second, we're going to go to the Duke level. And we don't really have to do that for the wait, but we're going to do that anyway. We're going to select the Duke, go to the details, and the wait command is over here. It's actually in the method creation window here. We're going to drag that up here, and it's going to ask you for the time. How much time is it we're going to wait for? We're going to wait for half a second. Also, what I'm going to do, this is already set to a do in order, but I'm going to drag one up here anyway. I like to do this because then, let me open this guy up. What this is doing is it's creating a block of code. We're going to create a block of code called do in order. We're going to put a bunch of instructions in here. But the reason I'm putting it in this window, because I don't have to, it's by default, this method itself will automatically do every single action in order. But I'm putting it in this do in order so I can close it if I need to minimize it, minimize all the code. And also I can do things like I can right-click on it and disable it. And that way I can do some easy peasy testing, just real quick access testing without moving things around and without disabling each individual piece of code. I can actually just disable the whole chunk. And by the way, I accidentally deleted it, and I hit Control-Z to undelete it. So you can undo deletions of code right here with the Control-Z. Okay, so the first thing he does is he waits a half a second, and then he's going to walk forward 1 meter. So we're going to have to drag the walk over 1 meter. Then he's going to do his investigation. Now, we don't have an investigation method, but we do have, if we go to properties, we do have his investigation poses. These poses are properties, they're variables. So what we can do is we could very well put this in here. We're going to have investigate right and investigate left, and then when we play the program, it'll actually move forward and it'll investigate right and it'll investigate left. But I don't want to do that. And the reason why I don't want to do that is because we're going to do this investigation a couple of times. So I want to make a method for this that we can call over and over. And this is where we're nesting methods. This is where it kind of starts here. So I'm going to delete these. I'm going to create a method for the Duke. So I'm going to go to the methods and create a new method right in this details window. I'm going to call this investigate. I know we use the word a lot, but it makes sense. That's what he's doing. He's investigating. Okay, so the first thing we do is, and normally with investigations, you really want to put a comment first thing, usually, to explain what the method is going to be. And this one is going to be Duke pauses a bit. Oops. Investigates right. And investigates left. The reason why I do comments is, A, it helps you. If you, let's say you go away from this project, you finish it, you go away for a couple of months or whatever, and you're like, you know what, that project was really cool, I want to go back to it and add more to it. When you come back to the project, you can read and see exactly what you were thinking and what these methods were supposed to be doing without trying to decipher the code and read the computer lingo. The other thing that's cool about it is, and this happens a lot in the real world, you'll be programming something and you'll be on a team with some other people who are programming, or you'll be programming something, you have to give it to someone else and they have to add their own little part to it. And so you're working with other people. It's a good way to communicate your ideas of what you were thinking at the time when you created that code or what you planned on doing. And then when someone else comes in, they can already get up to speed. They can be caught up to speed and know exactly what you were thinking and what you're doing. So it's a great idea to get a habit of writing comments. And again, it's not just for other people though, because it helps you too. When you come back to your project after a certain amount of time, then you won't have to scratch your brain trying to remember exactly what you were trying to do back when you were working on the project the first time. So we're going to Duke pause a bit, investigate right and investigate left. There's another part, the thing that's cool about comments. If you do what I just did here and write it in first, then you can kind of keep, you don't have to think about it. You can just go bit by bit and write the code in or create the code based on the comment you wrote. It's a cool idea if you write a script and create a storyboard for your animations before you start. You can actually put your script in here in each of your methods that you want to create, and then at least you have them as placeholders, and you don't have to keep looking at the script. You already have it written down in your methods, and then you can just keep just actually create the motion. So let's create the motion. Duke pauses for a bit. Well, that's going to be a wait. So I'm going to have him wait and I'll put a quarter of a second. Then I'm having investigate to the right. So I'm going to go to my properties and get my investigate right. Remember, this is just a pose. Right now it's just a pose, but when I pull it over here, it automatically sets it to a method, the Duke set pose method, and then the pose is going to be investigate right. I'm actually going to have a wait, almost as if he's looking in that direction. I'm going to have him look over here just for half a second. And then I'm going to have him investigate to the left. And then I'm going to have a wait over here. He's going to look in this direction a little longer. Let's say a second. And then the last thing we're going to do, and it doesn't say it up here, but the last thing we need to do before he goes back and starts walking again is he's going to have to go back to his natural pose. If he doesn't do that, then he'll keep remaining looking to the left. And then when he walks, he's going to have his flashlight to the left, and it's going to look weird. So we're just going to have him set the pose back to natural. And I'm going to make this a little quicker. I'm going to have this go. And by the way, anytime you see the word more, that's going to be options. So you have options after these, after all of these three snippets of code here. Click more. You can choose from style. There's gently, begin gently, end gently, and abruptly. Gently means that it'll start slowly, build momentum, and then before it stops, it'll end gently. So it'll slow down until it gets to the end. If you do begin gently, it'll start off slow and build momentum, and then continue with momentum until the end. It'll stop abruptly. And then end gently means it'll start abruptly, and then it'll come to a nice, slow, gentle stop. And abruptly means it'll start and stop all in a linear time. There's no momentum build up or slow down. Mostly everything in the real world uses gently. I mean, in the actual physics, you use if you're a person running, if it's a car starting, if it's anything moving, it's going to be gentle. It's actually going to start and build momentum. And then anything abruptly usually is something like maybe a ghost floating, something that's not natural. And then duration here is how long it's going to take for the action to happen. So right now I'm going to have this happen a little slower. 0.5, I did this earlier, and 0.5 was or a little faster. 0.5 was too fast. I'm going to actually go 0.75. Okay. So I'm going to try this code out. If I try it right now, it's going to yak at me. It's going to say that the current code that I'm working on, the Duke.investigate code, that's the one we just created, it's not called by any events. It's not called, we didn't call it. So, and it'll show us, it'll do the thing and not show us him turning the flashlight. So we want to test it. We have to call it. So we're going to go back. Right now we're in the Duke.investigate, and this is the actual method we just created on the Duke. We're going to go to the world.DukeInvestigate. This is a whole list of function. These are the whole instructions that we're creating for them. Now we're going to take the investigate method from the Duke, pull it over, and then we're going to press play. There he goes. Okay, cool. That's what we wanted. And we want him to go back to natural pose. Again, if he kept his flashlight to the left, he'll keep moving with his flashlight over to the left, and it'll look odd. It's not what we're looking for. Okay, so we got the Duke investigate method. We created that ourselves. That was using our poses from yesterday, and we created that. And now we're going to have the Duke turn left. That's one already created for us before this training here. I'm going to have the Duke walk him forward a meter. So he's going to turn and walk. And then he's going to investigate again. And then he's going to walk forward 2 meters again. And the next thing we need him to do is turn his flashlight off. We don't have that created yet. We're going to have to create that ourselves. But I want to show you the animation so far. So we have him investigate. We have him walk, investigate. He's going to turn, move forward, investigate again, move forward twice. And right here is where he's supposed to turn a flashlight off. And so that's what we're going to build now. Again, we don't have a turn off flashlight method, so we're going to have to create one. I'll delete this guy here. Let's create a new method. Turn flashlight off. Okay, so this method has a lot more coding involved, and it sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually pretty cool. What we're going to do is we have some shortcuts we're going to do as we create this, and I'm going to show those to you as we go. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my comments in here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to bring the flashlight up to the face. We're now, after that, we're going to have the flash, or we're going to click the flashlight. I actually did have I imported a sound before to click the flashlight. It didn't sound right. I mean, it sounded like a flashlight being clicked, but since there was no other audio in the scene, it didn't sound right, so I took it out. But it did work pretty well. Only if there was, maybe if I put crickets in the background or something, that would work. Feel free to do that on your own and add that into the click flashlight section. That'd be pretty cool. What else is here? Oh, so then this is going to be return to natural pose. Yeah, remember, anytime you create a method to actually animate the object, remember to animate your object back to where it was, because otherwise it won't. It will start doing really weird things. Okay, so we have these three comments here, and now we're going to put some code in here. The first thing we do is we're going to bring the flashlight up to the face, and what's going to happen is we're going to have the head turn and look at the flashlight, and we're also going to have the flashlight, the arm move up so that the flashlight's toward the face. So those are going to happen at the same time. So in order to do things at the same time, to do methods at the same time, we're going to do something called a do together. We're going to bring this do together tile up. So it's going to do this code, and it's going to do them simultaneously. The first thing was we're going to have that head turned towards the flashlight. So I'm going to make sure the Duke is selected, open this up, and I'm going to try to find his head, which is attached to his torso. There it is. So I'm going to select the head, and I'm going to have the head turn. I'm going to have it turn right for 0.05 revolutions. When you get to the things like heads and some of the body parts, the rotation, the revolutions of rotation is really minute. If you went to 0.5, in fact, I'll show you what it would look like. And we're going to call this, let's call this now, go back up to the Duke, turn flashlight off, and I'm going to disable this chunk of code here. So, and this is just for testing purposes. I'm gonna ignore all this code right now. Oops, ignore it all. Not deleting it, just ignoring it, and then it's just going to do the turn flashlight off code, which we just created right here. And all it's doing right now is it's just turning his torso, his head, to the right, 0.5 revolutions. So we'll play that. You'll see it goes all the way around his head. He's possessed. So now's a good time to save it, but I'm not going to do it just to help us with timing here. So what we want to do is make sure that you have your decimals right. 0.05 revolutions. This is going to happen over half a second. So it's 0.05 revolutions over half of a second. And then we're going to animate his arm. Remember, his arm's going to bring that flashlight closer to his head as well. So we have to select the right upper arm. Not select it, but open it up, and then we are going to open up or select the right lower arm. And we're going to have this turn to the left, 0.15. And again, when you're actually animating this on your own or creating your own animations, you're going to be testing this. You're not going to have this stuff written down. Like I wrote this stuff down after a couple of minutes, maybe half hour of testing different variable or different values and different distances to see what was right. I don't have that luxury. We don't have that luxury right now because I'm trying to save us some time. But yeah, so on your own, feel free to test it and experiment and see what looks the best. Okay, so I had it turn to the left, 0.15 revolutions over half a second worth of time, and I had it roll. And rolling is basically turning on the y-axis, I believe. It's one of they're both basically rotating the part of the object, the subpart of the object, but it's doing it on a different axis. So I had this move left 0.15 revolutions as well for half a second. Right, so let's play that and see what it looks like. That's perfect. Okay, so he looks at it. Now we want to click the flashlight. And this is going to be done. This is going to be done in order. He's going to wait. So I'm actually going to pull a do in order tile up here. We don't need it, because this is already, if you look at the background, the color is exactly the same as a do in order. This is already a do in order. However, I want to be able to do things like minimize the code if I want to, so I can read things easier, or if I want to, like I did over here, I disabled this code. I want to be able to disable it for testing purposes if I need to. So I'm just thinking ahead. I don't know if and I know for a fact that I won't need to do it during to do that during this presentation, but in the future, who knows? Okay, so I'm gonna have a wait tile. He's gonna wait for half a second. So we go up to his face. He's gonna wait for a little bit of time, and then his hand is actually gonna rotate up. So I'm gonna try to find his hand in the objects tree, and I'm gonna turn his hand to the right. 0.05 revolutions. Again, very tiny amount. And that's going to be over a quick amount as well, 0.15 seconds. The next thing I want to do is and I'll show you what that looks like. So I just pushed it down, and I'm going to have him push it back up again. Since I'm going to have him do the exact same movement, just in the opposite direction, I'm actually going to, instead of retyping all this or finding all of these parts, I'm just going to copy it. If you click on a piece of code and drag it up to your clipboard, it creates a piece of paper up there. You can see it's a white piece of paper. Then you can click on that paper and drag it down, and then you have a copy of that snippet of code you just created. So all I want to do is I want to take that same hand and turn it the exact same amount of revolutions for the exact same amount of time, but I want to do it in the opposite direction. So instead of right, I'm going to click left. So let's see what it looks like. There we go, perfect. And now I want that light to shut off. So I'm going to go to my flashlight, where I've already created a method called flashlight off. I'm going to pull that in here. I'm going to press play. Click, and the light goes out. You can see that the light's gone, everything's gone. Okay, cool. The last thing we're going to do is we have a return to natural pose. The return to natural pose is just like we did with let me see if I can pull this up a little more. Just like we did with this line here, it was the exact same thing, but only the opposite direction. To return to natural pose, we're going to actually do the exact same thing with the head and the arm, but in the opposite direction. So I'm just going to copy this up into the clipboard, drag it up there to copy it, then I'm going to pull it back down here, and I'm just going to change the directions. Instead of the head turning to the right, it's going to turn to the left. Instead of the arm turning to the left, it's going to turn to the right. And instead of rolling to the left, the arm is going to roll to the right. So now it should do the opposite. It should go back into natural pose. Click, and it's back into natural pose. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so I'm going to scoot this back down. I'm going to close this, and now I'm going to enable my instructions again for the Duke Investigates the world method here. I'm going to pull my flashlight down to the bottom where it's supposed to be in the stack here, in the list. And then the last thing he does is he just moves forward for 2 meters. So I'm going to have him walk forward 2 meters. Let's play that and see what happens. Looks to the right, looks to the left, turns, moves forward, does the investigation again. Click. And that's the animation. That's how you can use methods and how you can nest methods inside of each other to create advanced